Welcome, all fellow wannabes. Welcome to the podcast. I am one of your hosts, Gabriel Fast, and joining me today are, as a special guest, really, a couple special guests. We have Matthew Pickford and Daniel Reposer from the band Decay, and they are here talking about just, their music journey last year, and I'm super happy to have them on as the first guest for Wannabe Music Reviews. And we're doing an interview today. It's going to be something I'm going to start doing more often. But Matthew, Danny, how you guys feeling?
Oh, great, yeah, good to be here. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, nice one for having us.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. We were kind of talking off mic a minute ago. I was like, I have listened to your album at this point because I got it early for review, and I think at this point I have probably listened to that record maybe 100 times. And each time I would listen to it, it just got better and better for me. And it's just, I think, you guys are probably tied for one of my favorite albums of last year. So it's really just kind of really cool to have you guys on, not in the flesh, but, we're able to make this happen. If only that would be amazing.
One day.
One day.
Yeah, one day. But we're looking forward to kind of talking with you guys today. And, I reached out to a couple of different people. We actually have a live performance from you guys that we're going to be able to throw up in the podcast, later on. You guys won't see that, unfortunately, but the folks at home will. So,
we've seen us enough, so I think we're good.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be all right. Plus, it's like, the rest of the band isn't here, so it might, it might be a little, but I did take it. Shout out to Sleepless Sessions, I think, on Instagram. Sleep sessions, for saying, go ahead and use it, and really nice gentleman. But it's currently almost 8 p.m. where you guys are at, right? So how you feeling? Are you sipping on anything? What's going on?
Doing dry January. It was a crazy last year with the lockdown. I drank far too much, so I'm trying to let my body recuperate and get myself back together. So probably just gonna game all night, really. Chill. Yeah.
That's my kind of people. So dry January, is that a thing over in the UK?
Yeah, we're all alcoholics, so we have to pace ourselves when the new year comes.
Dry January and sober October.
Yeah.
Okay. Right on. So no.
I don't really drink any. I'm just literally just drinking water.
Oh well, you must be the healthiest out of all of us because.
Oh no.
It's 11:40 and I'm drinking a Mountain Dew already. I also have water as well. I need to drink more water. I wasn't prepared enough, I guess, because my camera is about to die, so we might have to switch cameras here in a minute. But so guys, it's been a horrible year, to say the least. But one of the highlights of my year was your record "Staring at the Sun" did come out last year. We'll start with Matty first, and then Danny. Can you kind of tell me what that experience was like? Just kind of having. You're kind of getting more traction, the first couple singles you released and stuff like that. What were you feeling like? What was kind of going on in your head as that was kind of snowballing there?
Well, as the singles were coming out, it was obviously, goes without saying, excitement. It was the first album we'd done. We'd had one EP out before, which did, relatively okay. But, as that was starting to build up, I could feel excitement. But then obviously with what's happened in the world since, it's bit of a shame that we couldn't capitalize on any hype we could have had from the album and toured a whole lot. I don't know how the rest of the lads feel, but we've spoke over since the lockdown that it felt, for me anyway, it felt like it just stagnated us a little bit. Not to say that it hasn't been, absolutely overwhelming, the response we did have, because we had some fantastic reviews and we've had more streams than I ever thought I'd have in my life on any music that I worked on. So it's been incredible, don't get me wrong, but I just really wish that we would have timed it maybe a year later so we could have toured and, we could have really capitalized on some of the hype. But yeah, it's a mixed bag, but I'm sure it's the same with a lot of musicians this year.
Yeah, well, that's well said. And I think, I don't think you're alone. And before we go into that, Danny, what about you? What did you kind of feel? What were you thinking? It's like, oh my God, people are listening. Like, this is great. Or it's getting traction and people are talking about it. And I reviewed the single too, and I was like, oh my God, these guys are awesome. So what were you kind of thinking? What was going through your mind?
terrified personally because like it was a major, well, not major difference, but it was a lot like lighter and more melodic and some of the stuff we were doing, like a lot of like acoustic guitar and tambourines and like some weird percussion stuff in the background. So like to make the jump from like a, well, I wouldn't say like generic, but like a grungy, like bedroom grunge band, to make the jump from that to like try and sound a bit more radio friendly kind of was terrifying. I'm just happy like all not only like the fans and that, but like our friends were the first to be like, this is amazing, because we come from like quite a like hardcore background. Like so a lot of our friends like heavy bands, so to like send them the demos and be like, oh, it might sound a bit like a bit too like child friendly, like radio friendly. Do you know what I mean? So I was just terrified to think what my friends would think. And be like, oh, it's sick. Well done. I think
Yeah.
maybe like the pure like make a jump to like a proper boring like Coldplay style band. So we found somewhere in between. Still got some like some
Coldplay makes
heavy.
money though, so
Hey,
Coldplay do
don't
make
talk
money.
hurt on Coldplay. All right, I'm a big Coldplay fan. All right,
I like Coldplay.
I do
Yeah,
too.
I like
You ever
Coldplay.
been to one of their shows? It's insane.
I have. In
They're
unreal.
like
One of my
I
favorite
cried. It was a thing. You know, it's an emotional experience. So don't talk
Yeah.
hurt on Coldplay. No, I hear what you're saying. And, you know, whenever I hear it, I'm a big Basement fan. You know, I'm a big Basement fan. I'm a
Yeah,
big
same.
Citizen fan. You know, like Have Mercy, stuff like that. And as soon as I
Have
heard you
Mercy.
guys, I was like, oh my God, this is like literally all the best parts of these bands. You know, not saying that you guys like ripped off anyone or anything, but I think that sound is very
Definitely.
kind of niche. And you know,
Yeah.
to know that there was another band out there that was kind of going for that same sound just on its own, you know, it's like, oh my God, this is great. But then the more I listened to the record, once I got my hands on it, I was like, I hear Bring Me the Horizon. I hear like a little bit of Ronnie Radke and Danny's voice. You know, I hear a lot of, and that's not to be a diss, you know, I mean, Ronnie Radke
I
can
used to love
sing.
Falling Reversed and Fail when I was like a little 13-year-old emo kid.
Yeah, I mean, he's got
Yeah,
the dude's
my
got
guilty
some.
pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's got some rawness in his voice that I you know, I can't even come close to touching. So it's like, you know, it's just I think there's a lot of raw emotion there, you know, in the voice. And you guys took things from bands that I already really liked, but you really have your own signature sound. Like I don't think people would listen to your record and be like, oh, well, they ripped off Basement or they ripped off Citizen or whatever. You know, I think you have a definitively unique sound, and that's special. I think that's really special to do on your first record, you know, your first LP. And to me, like, I think about, you know, bands like, you think about Pearl Jam, right? Obviously, Pearl Jam's a huge name in music, but they made 10 and then everything else just kind of sucked after that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
the only songs you ever hear about are the songs off of 10, like, but they're timeless. And I just have to ask, you know, was there ever a fear of like, oh my God, we made this awesome record, this is as good as it might get, you know, especially with 2020? Like, was there ever that fear there? I mean, is that kind of, does that still kind of linger for you guys?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know we touched on it off mic, but obviously we lost a pretty influential band member who did a lot of the writing process too. So I know in like the immediate aftermath of that, for me anyway, it was just complete panic. But you know, you have to kind of roll with these things, and I feel like you sometimes make your best stuff creatively when you are in that. I say do or die. It's maybe a bit less dramatic than that, but
like a flight.
yeah, fight or flight mode where you kind of, you know, you do have that fear of, you know, it not hitting. But I think the important thing I try and think about is you can't really write music with the expectation of people to like it or enjoy it. You just have to do it for yourself. And if you're happy with the product, then that really is all that matters, I think, in the end. If everyone else digs it, then that's cool. That's it. You know, I'm all for that. But, you know, if they don't, then that's fine too. As long as I'm happy with the product, then, you know, I think that's the mindset I've had to adopt really, because the fear otherwise would just stop you from creating, stop you from trying to push a boundary or making a song that you mightn't be totally comfortable with at first out of fear of what other people would think. But it's a natural thing. I think anyone would feel the same in any situation like that.
Well said. What do you think, Danny?
So I think like with our process, really, it's more what do we think like? Because if I was caught up on how everyone else perceived us, we wouldn't be a band. I wouldn't like be on a stage. I mean, I'm too like I get stuff inside my own head a lot. So to focus on what we like and what we want to do personally is the way it should be, and it's the way it is. So it's like we'll just send a riff, and then be like, oh, that sounds so cool. So we'll add this to it, we'll do that to it, and just like try and make something that we like first and foremost. I think that's
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
what we as a band are built on.
yeah, I think that's a great philosophy to have, and I think inherently then you'll always find success, because I that's kind of my philosophy too with anything that I make. It's like, all right, obviously you want to be a YouTuber, or I want to be a YouTuber, a content creator, whatever. You're gonna find a relative version of success depending on what it is you're actually looking for. It's like, well,
Yeah.
what is your version of success then? You know what I mean? Are you wanting to make a living doing it? Because that's gonna take a long time.
Yeah.
How about
maybe
more?
never.
Yeah, I mean, how about more day to day? Like, oh my god, like this video I made is sick, or whatever. And I think the same way, when I work on music here, you can hear them. I mix and master everything myself, so it's like you hear the mix, and then you're like, oh, that isn't quite what I wanted. But then, even once it gets to be like a version of something that even sounds resembling of what you're after, in a way that's kind of like a win, because you're just like, oh, we're that much closer to getting that product that we want.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree with you, and I love that your guys' philosophy is it's for you first, because it is.
Exactly.
It is for you first, and it should be. And I said something a few weeks ago in like a Taylor Swift review I did. It was like, look, music should be for you at the end of the day. Like,
Always,
you
yeah.
shouldn't be making music specifically for other people, unless you're probably Taylor Swift, because all she cares about
Yeah.
is money. So
Chase the bag.
it's a completely different situation. But so kind of talking about that situation a little bit, what was that like? I mean, you hear these rumors and you hear this stuff, how do you tackle that, like, as a band? You know what I mean? Like, how do you say, hey, this is messed up and you're out? I mean, what's that like?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it was. I'll go on. Sorry, I'll go. You go first.
Personally, I was there with said person when everything came out, so I just like tackled the head on. I was like, what is this? I like explained the situation, and he explained it honestly, and I was like, right, well, we can't. I'm first and foremost, like, we're not friends anymore. You're out the band, and you need to make your own statement, because I'm going to make mine, because like people deserve to know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the time. I was living in Manchester City, just by where we're from, with my girlfriend, over the first lockdown in the UK. And Danny rang me, told me. I thought he was joking. I was like, no way, man. The thing that kind of baffled me is, I'd known the kid for probably 3 years, and when people say it's the last person you'd expect, he really was the last person I'd expect. I'm not here to demonize or anything like that, because it's not my place to say. I'm not affiliated with what's happened to that person and anything like that. But it was a surreal moment, because it's that thing of, you've known someone for that amount of time, and you almost feel a bit betrayed that you didn't see it for yourself. And I think I'd seen it happen to so many other people in the scene and so many other bands, and it was something I was always pretty secure about with the five of us at the time, that it would never happen to us. But when it did, yeah, I'll be honest with you, I nearly quit the band, just because it made me lose a bit of my love for music, just because it involved me in something I never really wanted to be involved in. But I can speak for Danny, I'm sure, and the rest of the lads in the band. It was never really an option. Whether it was only ever going to end one way, and I think it was within about an hour we had him kicked off the band, and the statement was put up, and that whether he was the main contributor or he wasn't, it doesn't really make a difference to me. There's no distinction. There's a level of importance that you need to put on situations like that, which go beyond any success you could have in a band. No, and you've got to stand by someone who's been something through that. I know people myself in my personal life that's been affected by similar issues, and I've seen what it's done to them, and it's not something I will defend or ever defend, and it doesn't matter who you are, we'll hunt you down and call you out for it. It was horrible, but I can stand by what we did and how we reacted, and I think we can walk away with our heads held high.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's a guitar part, it's a guitar part. Those are your songs. Like, those aren't that guy's songs. Those are your guys' songs as a band. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's like, might it pop into your mind every once in a while when you're playing these songs? It's like, oh, I remember the process, so and so contributed this. You might But then you can make it even better. You can innovate on it. You can say,
Yeah.
well, we're going to make a new sound now, and eventually, that whole process will be like, no, these are our songs. Like, so what? So what if he was a main contributor or whatever,
Well, I think for me personally, I had it's kind of, since it's happened, and I'm sure I think we were saying off mic, I was always very much a backseat kind of member. Show up, play the shows. I didn't
That's
really
what
get
he's
involved
told.
in the writing. Yeah, yeah, literally. But since that's happened, I've tried to now take on more agency. So it's actually had some real positives, because it stopped me enabling me to be lazy sometimes, because if someone's doing all the writing for you, for me personally, I was just like, oh, that's fine. I was doing uni work at the time, and I just let them get on with it. But now that's not really an option. We all have to kind of come together. So in a way, I think it's brought us closer as a band, and split this creative process.
Well, really.
Yeah, definitely closer as friends. Yeah. Which is the most important thing, I think. So I see it as a weird way to phrase it, don't get me wrong, because it's obviously something that should never have happened. But for us personally, it's...
Someone's going to clip this out of context.
I know, God, yeah. This is why I don't podcast.
Yeah, no, it's... Yeah.
No. But yeah, no, I just think, it could have went bad. We could have split up and all this, but we tried to take any positives that can possibly be taken from it. It's not an easy thing to see any positive spin on, but you deal with the cards you've been dealt with. Do you know what I mean? You can't get on with it, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's great. We've been talking a lot about... Danny, do you have anything you wanted to piggyback on that? I mean, you said go ahead if you have anything.
I was just terrified to release the album, because obviously, like, I'd spent 2 days a week since the EP was even finished, just writing, hashing out songs with him. And it was just me and him, like, riffing off each other, writing the songs, doing the demos, recording them, sending them to the group. Then we practice, and it was just like, I just felt like I didn't want to attach myself to the album because the involvement in it. But at the end of the day, they're our songs, like, not his kind of thing. You know what I mean?
You summed it up quite well, Gabe.
Very like reluctant to like release anything, because it just was tarnished with that like feeling.
Yeah, I mean, because not only did he violate like someone else's rights, obviously, he violated he violated you guys. He violated for what the band is. He violated really the language that you speak, because I know I've been in bands, and I know whenever you riff with your band and like you click and it just you get in the right groove. You're speaking a different language that no one else has. No one else gets that. And you can sit down with 3 other musicians and play the same songs and not feel the same way. It's chemistry. It's a fact.
Yeah, definitely.
So whenever, you have that connection with somebody, you inherently are going to feel a sense of attachment to them, because you have that thing in common that no one else has, right? Or those other 2 guys have, in that thing. So whenever somebody violates that, it's I've never had something on that level happen to me, but we had a member quit, from one of the bands that I was in. And it was just kind of like, you kind of lose your joy, you kind of lose a little bit of that spark that you had. It's just like, oh my God, like we had this thing that was so good, and now you had to ruin it. You know what I mean? And I can't imagine how it'd be, just a few days before the record releases, right? I mean, this all happened. And it was like, when I remember reading it, and my peers that I was, there's a lot of people like Passion Flower and stuff like that. Like I saw him like posting about it.
Shout out Passion Flower.
Yeah, shout out to Passion Flower. He's a good, Kyle Richardson, good dude. He's a talented dude.
Super talented guy.
Yeah.
So
really nice guy too.
Really nice. I think didn't he try and like he tried out for you guys' guitar, because whenever you guys said you were looking for a guitar player, I was like, dude, have you seen this? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I've actually been talking to him. So that's cool. That is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Kyle. But the fact that you guys handled it so professionally, you know what I mean? I don't know. Do you guys have a manager like that was kind of telling you what to do? Are you guys just kind of you're just self-managed?
Just me and me notes up.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing, because you handled it exactly, I think, how, not AAA, but how one of the big dogs, would handle that type of thing. It's like, this is what happened.
The hour, it was all done and dusted.
Yeah. I mean, and it was just, you washed your hands of it. And I think that's the best thing you could have done as a band. And it's like, yep, we're moving forward with the record. I mean, thank
Yeah.
God, thank God that you weren't actually touring,
Yeah.
like in a way,
Oh my
because
God.
that could have been,
Messy.
That would have been the killing blow, to be honest.
that's a lot of songs, for anyone to learn, in a short amount of
I
time.
don't think we still haven't properly like learned them, to be honest. We've been taking a bit of time out, like just kind
Mentally,
of,
yeah.
just doing our own thing for a bit, and then writing little bits on the side and planning and that. But I think the focus wasn't really on getting that tour ready since lockdown. I've been so bit of
Yeah.
a blessing with the lockdown that we can just do whatever, just
Yeah. Well, that's
like log out for a bit.
yeah, that is good. So you guys haven't actually gotten together again since lockdown. You haven't been able to practice, or have you? I've seen bands do like the social distance practices and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
we got a social distance one in with like a filling guitarist, one of our good mates.
But we sounded like a Decay cover band though, so
yeah,
it wasn't very good.
Because we hadn't actually practiced since just before recording the album. I think we played the gig the day before we recorded the album in Birmingham with Hawthorne Heights, and the last practice we had was probably this time last year, like preparing for that show, and then
wait, I'm sorry.
to write the album.
You said you in Hawthorne Heights?
Yeah. I know. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's as mad as it sounds.
Wow, that's impressive. That's really cool. So you said you were playing with those guys? You were just kind of like
a little one-off Birmingham show.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
It was cool.
Great.
Yeah, it was
super nice people.
Yeah, really nice guys.
You guys are like the most humble guys ever, because obviously your stuff is getting attention from all the right places, and I can, just by talking to you guys, I talk to a lot of people. I'm behind this microphone probably 30 or 40 hours a week, honestly. And I don't make anything from this yet, by the way, but it's a lot of fun to do. And I talk to a lot of people, and it's like, you can tell without a shadow of a doubt whether someone's being genuine or not. And it's just really, it's really like refreshing to talk to a band that realizes like any attention you get for anything, like from music that you truly love, that you made yourself, any shred of anything, it's like, oh my God, like this is amazing. This is great. Yeah. Like, and whenever it comes from, literally a pioneer of the genre you're in, basically, I mean, it's a byproduct of music that they wrote to influence people who wrote music that you're listening to now. It's like, it's got to be kind of crazy, to like kind of meet your heroes a little bit and be able to see, kind of their reaction to it and stuff like that. I mean, have you had like any other experiences that you've gotten to kind of like meet some cool people, or maybe, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe we met so-and-so. I mean, have you had any of those experiences yet?
I think for me, go on, sorry, Dan. After you.
Sorry. Me personally, like when we first started Pine, we played our first ever show with Basement at some like greenhouse in the middle of nowhere in Liverpool, in like Sefton Palmer. So it's like a big like venue where these I think do like wedding receptions and high school proms. It's just like a big walk-in greenhouse. That was insane. Other than that, we played a show with Rome. If you know Rome, on Hopeless Records, they recorded their EP in the same place we recorded all of our stuff. I just thought that was insane, because like I grew up listening to Rome and just going to shows and stage diving, and to be in the same place that like just play a show with them, and then to be like dead nice, and just they like I think they played the tour where they posted the posting like, oh, tag your local sports and we'll pick them, and they messaged us. I'm like, do you want to play? And I was like, yeah, sure. And it was just like crazy, just to be like, just humbling, really.
I think for me, it's not so much playing with anyone in particular. I think what was crazy for me, we ended up on a BBC Radio 1 show, which, I never, if you would have told 13-year-old Matty that he would have been in a band that was on the BBC, he would have lost his mind, But in all honesty, I try not to read too much into these like little things, because I think you touched on it there. Like, I think part of the reason we all work so well as a band is because there's not that much ego involved at all. We don't really think at any point. I've never got any impression from any one of us that we've thought that we're, we're this big and we should expect this and should expect that. I think that's my pet hate in any kind of music scene and any kind of band. If I meet anyone who's like that, luckily it's been few and far between, but I think that's a recipe for disaster. I think you've just got to take your ego out of it a little bit sometimes, other than maybe when you're on stage, you're allowed to have a bit of an ego then, I think, because that's kind of part of the performance. But I think that's part of the reason we work so well, because we are all yeah, by nature, we take it step by step, take it slowly, never get too big for our boots, so to speak. I wouldn't have it any other way because it's a bit obnoxious, I think.
Yeah, and I
On
mean,
the
I
flip side.
think you see these bands blow up, and for me, I'm kind of in a different world. I see people kind of in a similar genre as me, and I've always just people told me, hey, like stick to one thing, do that one thing, and I said no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
I have aspirations. I have a lot of stuff I want to talk about. I have a lot of different interests. So don't tell me what I do. But you know what? It has hindered me in some ways because I don't stick to one thing. And I see people in a similar genre, their subscribers go up and stuff. But at the end of the day, you're more than just a number. Even when the numbers are good, you're more than that
yeah,
number. You're worth more than being on that BBC One radio show. Is that a cool
definitely.
is that a cool accolade to have? Absolutely. That's an awesome thing that you've been able to do, but that doesn't make your career. That doesn't
No,
make you as an artist. That's not in your DNA. That is a byproduct of hard work and luck, by the way. So,
yeah, definitely, 100%. Yeah,
the
you're
right
spot on the
place,
nail.
the right place at the right time with the right sound to the right people, and I'm so happy for you guys that you got to be able to do that and that you were featured there. And I think it's one of those things too. It's like once you get some notoriety, at least you know that those people that heard you in the first place, they're listening, they're waiting, they're always going to be waiting. And they're always going to be like, oh, Decay put out Decay's putting out a new single that slaps, like we need to like get this on BBC One as a single first, rather than, like some after the record's already come out and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah,
So, to me, it's like, it's cool to hear you guys kind of talk about it. It's like, yeah, we're making music that we love, and we're happy to be doing that. We've been talking a lot about the band and the band stuff. One of the first questions I meant to ask is, how did you guys even form as a band? How did you meet? Like, how long have you been a band?
I'll let I joined late, in all honesty. Not with Decay, but yeah, I was quite a late joiner with the original band Pan. I filled in for a show for them on the second ever gig, funny enough, just by chance. I used to know the old drummer, and then it just so happened their bassist left about a year or so later. I was straight on the message. I was trying to get back into music after being out of any kind of scene for about a year or two. And yeah, I'd met Danny for the first time in the band, and the other lads I met for the first time at a practice, and I clicked with them all really quickly. I mean, it's a great group of lads. I am really fortunate to be in a band with them. I mean, I wouldn't pick anyone else. I won't say that to the faces all too often, but yeah, it's we are lucky, I think. But Danny has a bit more info on how it all actually started.
Yeah, so it's pretty much just like generic. Like, well, we knew each other in high school now, and then we formed Pine with a few other close mates. Bassist dropped out. We got Matty in, and then we got Toby in, the drummer, because like that the drummer from Pine kind of left to start as like his family, and like just move on with his life. We were all like proper happy for him. I was like, oh, let's, instead of carrying this on, let's just start a new band. So I messaged Toby, and that was it. He just sent me some demos, and we were flying.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Stuck with each other ever since.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I mean, you're generic, and then your generic meetup story, and then that's kind of how it goes. And here you are now. So kind of growing up, like, what were some kind of what were like your favorite bands growing up listening to, and like that you found yourself like you would sing their songs, and it's like, oh, I can hit that range, or I kind of sound like them, or I like I can kind of do my own thing with that, like what was, or like, man, that bass works really great. Like, what are some of your biggest influences?
Well, for me, it was I have to admit, I don't come from a very typical emo background where I've got a really weird taste. Well, I say weird taste, not that weird, but a wide taste. My dad used, when I grew up with my dad in the car, he used to play me a lot of David Bowie, Soft Cell, these kind of 80s band, New Order, bit of Joy Division, and especially stuff like New Order. I mean, the bass speaks for itself. Peter Hook is absolute genius. And it was kind of just taking bits from them, that kind of 70s, 80s, 90s sound. I always tend to, no matter what genre, I do tend to like that more older sound, even in the likes of rap. I prefer like that 90s style of hip hop with the, you know, the heavy bass and the drums. And not that I'm saying anything's wrong with newer style of rap. It's all got its place and it's all got its merits, but just as a personal preference. But then I did also have that kind of emo-y, basementy. It was kind of more enhanced when I did join the band. I know Danny and Toby and Nathan and all the lads in the band, they kind of opened my eyes to a lot of cool bands that I honestly had no idea existed. So I'm still playing catch up with a lot of the bands in the scene at the moment. I'm very much kind of, you know, lagging behind a little bit, but yeah, indie kind of 70s, 80s, 90s, that kind of stuff. That's me go-to house pick.
Well, I mean, honestly, you know, the first song that comes to mind for me, like, and Danny, we'll get to you in a minute. My first song that comes to mind whenever you're talking about 70s and 80s, probably my favorite song on the record is Feel Better. And that bass on that, you know, that, you know, just real intricate bass. And it just gets like a real, in my opinion, you know, when you actually sit down to play it, it's not that complex, but the way you play it makes it sound complex. And the way it fits in with the rest of the band and the drums and like just how everyone's able to kind of build off of that, it really builds a super solid emotion, you know, and like props to you because your influences come through. That's something I think that a lot of people, it's hard for them to do. It's like, oh yeah, we listen to My Chemical Romance and we listen to Bring Me the Horizon and all this stuff. And you can hear, it's like, oh yeah, well, I can hear it. Whereas you guys, it sounds like, you know, you kind of have some different, some varied styles, and I can kind of hear that those influences now. It makes more sense. It's like, man, that guy's a dope bass player. And, you know, I remember there was multiple times on the record
Thank you.
that I was thinking, I was like, man, this bass, not only, you know, I feel like the bass kind of takes the back seat a lot of the, you know, a lot of the time in the record, they're kind of like the bass line, obviously, you know, the lower register of the record, but I feel like there was multiple opportunities where the bass got to be showcased on this record, and it shines through, you know, so props to you. I think that's a good thing to do, to have a wide variety of music that you kind of derive inspiration from. I think that's awesome.
It always works like that. Yeah. I think it's the best starting block. I mean, I know with some of the newer stuff with time to write, there's like even more. Like I know when me and Danny have been speaking, there's, you know, artists like King Cruel, who's obviously
Bobby.
But you know, it's cool to not like kind of be set in stone in one particular genre. And it's something I do feel strongly about. I have to admit, I'm not much of a writer musically. I'm not the most gifted musically at writing kind of full songs and stuff, but I do think it's important to also not just let yourself write the same record 4, 5, 6 times, because just defeat the purpose, really. Not that I'm, you know, if there's a place for it, obviously, let's say it's all preference. That's all it is, preference.
And I think, you know, whenever you can kind of redefine yourself a little bit, but still, you know, think about, we were talking about Bring Me the Horizon, right? Where, you know,
perfect example.
You listen to their newer songs, this newer pop style of stuff, you know, like on Ammo and stuff. And obviously they kind of went back, they went back to it, you know, with this newer record, the post-human survival horror, weird name. Kind of mixed all their stuff. But their last record, it's like, yeah, this is pop music, but it still sounds like Bring Me the Horizon. You know what I mean? I think always having that goal of like the attitude stays the same, the feeling stays the same, you know, is awesome.
I think like Bowie's a good example of it too. I mean, if you look at Bowie over the span of his whole career, each album sounds like a completely different artist at times, and that's part of the reason why I love him. I mean, you wouldn't know it's the same. You would know, obviously. Bowie's got a very distinctive voice, but I just think he's a very good example of how you don't have to do that. We were touching on it earlier about doing that same thing over and over again in order to hit some algorithm or try and get the best numbers in a particular scene. It's not how it's done. You know, for me personally, it's better to just let it flow a little bit, you know what I mean, and kind of take inspiration from little parts and just work on what you think sounds cool, really.
Yeah, in the words of Paul McCartney, he says, Dave Grohl looks over at him when they're working on a song. He asks him, he's like, you know, they wrote a song in like 30 seconds, and they just went with what they were feeling. You could tell, you know, Paul McCartney just doing whatever he's feeling, and Dave Grohl looks at him and he goes, why can't it always be this easy? And then Paul McCartney looks at him and he says, it is. And I was like, well, all right. I mean, that's a good way to look at it. It's like, So Danny, like, what were some of your like early influences? You know, in like kind of your first, you know, the
like
things you can remember the
introduction.
most. Yeah, your intro to
I got
wanting to
like
get more into
the
music.
the weirdest like background in music. So my dad was like big on like 90s new metal and rap. So it's like I think the first album I distinctly remember like listening to or like seeing the physical CD was Limp Bizkit. What's it called? The chocolate starfish and the hot dog flavored water. That and just a lot of like Beastie Boys like cassette tapes. I remember always being like in like the radio. But other than that, like I didn't really go and seek out music. Like it was just it kind of found me with like the film Dawn of the Dead, the remake. And I think the post credit scene they played "Down with the Sickness" by Disturbed. I remember hearing that when I was like 8, 9, just like this is me. This I like this. So I just went out and just found like not this Disturbed, System of a Down, Aston Alexandria, just everything under that umbrella, and I was just like obsessed. I just like trawled through like online forums and stuff, and then it just got worse and I got more like obsessed with like local bands and stuff, and it just grew from there. Really.
Yeah. I mean, you're speaking my language, dude. Like the exact same thing. And I think, you know, like you can hear it. You know, you can kind of hear that, you know, I mean, I knew you would be an Asking Alexandria fan. I mean, who's not,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
oh my God, you know, it's so good. I remember, you know, blasting it. I think there was a time, you know, I was in my car and like, I was trying to like learn how to do that style, you know, like I basically learning how to scream and because I
yeah,
had a friend who could do it. And then I remember trying and like I was like clenching my throat too hard. And then one time I just remember like kind of like easing up a little bit. And then
and it just clicked.
this beautiful sound came out and I was like, oh my God. Like I just started furiously like going through all my music, like to find it's like, can I scream to this? Like, you know, and it's been like, it's kind of crazy how music can affect you that way. And like, whenever you find
Yeah,
that thing that does click and you're singing to it and like,
that's it then.
oh yeah. And then you can take that and it's like, you can already, if you already have a sense of how to put music together, like it already flows into how you're going to do something else, you know?
It's like exactly the same for me. So like when like I got heavily involved in like not I wouldn't say like MySpace style metalcore, do you know what I mean? So like I think it was in like the first year of high school, and me and my friend would just sit in my room with YouTube on, just like, oh, listen to this song, like, oh, can I scream stuff? And be like, yeah, okay. And I would just listen to that and just repeat them. And he went, oh, it sounds sick. And I'm like, oh, it sounds good. It was just the most cringe thing ever. Listening to Not the American Average on repeat, trying to scream it, and then do the high singing bit. I think that's pretty much where I learned to like sing, I guess.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, that's like peak Danny Warsnop too, where like,
yeah,
he just, you look at him now and it's just like, oh, like what happened? Like, you know, if I ever met him, if I ever met him in real life, I'd probably be like, oh my God, you should sue somebody. What happened to you? Like, God, I mean, I guess, you know, a trillion packs of cigarettes and a million cheap
music as well.
a million cheap hookers. I guess that'll do that to you. You know what I mean? Like, good Lord.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, dude, you're speaking my language for sure, because there's just something about those bands and how all those things just kind of flow together and like how they kind of just spoke to us all, you know, at the right time, that they did their job. Right. And now it's like, I don't always listen to those bands, but I always have fond memories of going back to them. Yeah. I always have fond memories of going back to them. So
you've got to. Sorry guys, could I quickly grab a drink? Dead quick, I'll be 2 seconds.
Please do.
2 seconds. I'm
sorry.
Go.
We'll take a quick break. Let's do that. Ladies and gentlemen, Decay.
skin more than I've ever been. With the weight of the world on my lungs, my noose already hung. I watched him decay every day. His time is wearing thin, played with the guilt of his kin.
We had to take a little break because Matty needed to get his drink of choice this evening, which happens to be water.
Also, stay hydrated.
Yeah,
stay
you gotta
hydrated.
stay. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I got my basic
kick.
Starbucks cup, you know. So
It's in my mum's fancy cup as well. Look
yeah,
at
there you
this.
go. Cheers. So you know, we kind of talking about like your influences and kind of like, you know, the background of the band and kind of talking about the whole journey of 2020 and all that stuff. Are you guys working on any new music right now, or are you just kind of waiting to see what happens with this pandemic? I mean, it can't be, because you guys have been pretty quiet on social media. You know, Fox has been pretty quiet on social media. I think the last thing I saw Fox post was like, you know, the news that that one band was kind of done now. What was the name of them?
Coast to coast.
Coast to
Yeah.
Coast, which was horrible.
Yeah.
I just listened to
Oh,
their
God.
new EP, you know, and I was like kind of gutted about it. I was like, oh my
Amazing.
They're
God.
one of my favorite bands. Like, they out of that scene, they were like one of the first bands I like, you know, when I seen them live. And this is a mad shout as well, because you wouldn't expect it from a band who's, you know, not, as you were saying before, like a Foo Fighters, Coldplay level, but they're still to this day one of the best bands I've seen live. I mean, they're absolutely
Very
unbelievable.
Very unique.
Yeah, and if you get a chance as well, the guitarist, he does a lot of solo stuff, Zach Taylor. It's definitely worth checking out. He's on the mark. I mean, he deserves a lot more views than what he's currently getting right now. I mean, he's a brilliant songwriter. I know he wrote a lot of the Coast to Coast stuff as well, from what I was told or something. But yeah, a lot of time Coast to Coast, top lads as well. Really, really nice guys.
Yeah, that's another
Actually,
shout out.
Zach and Alex in Coast to Coast, so the two guitar players, they are sleep sessions. Yeah, so they shot that video for us.
Oh,
and asked us to
wow.
come down. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
They're
really
really
cool.
talented guys. Really talented guys. I mean,
That's
Very,
really
very
cool.
self-contained band. They did it all themselves. Amazing.
That's
Very,
really
very good
cool,
band.
because I know that they've, you know, it's kind of sad, you know, I mean, that again, that goes to show, you know, it's not all about the numbers. The numbers looked amazing. You know, I remember someone
Yeah.
posting something about Coast to Coast numbers and like doing all this PR, and, you know, like now they're done. They're not a band anymore. And it's like,
yeah.
wow, okay.
I'm absolutely devastated. I really am. Yeah,
But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, if you're not happy or if it's just not feeling right, you know, I mean, to definitively say like we're done, there's got to be something that's like just so, you know, because bands, what do they call it? A hiatus, right? They usually go on a hiatus. And
yeah.
I mean, to say like, no, we're done, we're not going to do anything else as a band, it's like, wow. I mean, okay, whatever.
It's a big shout. Yeah, it's a big shout. But for, you know, good luck to them. Though I'm sure they'll all go on to do, you know, really, really cool things. I've got no doubt, because you say they're all talented guys and they're all lovely guys, and I think that's the most important thing. Do you know what I mean? They are probably some of the nicest people I've met in the music scene, you know, period. So I've got a lot of time for them. A lot of time for them.
Well, that's nice to hear. What's kind of next for you guys though? What's you know, what's kind of on the rise? Like, do you guys have anything kind of brewing? You know, are you're kind of riding the wave for a little bit, and like, you know, waves kind of crash, you know, kind of have to restart, you know, have to kind of restart sometimes, you know? So, I mean, what are we looking at, you know, for as far as the future goes? Are you allowed to tell me?
So, yeah, I mean, not under any rules to say otherwise, so, do you know what I mean? We're trying to, well, I thought it'd be cool to reissue Modern Conversation and get like a little cassette maybe put some extras on there. Like we're working on a few B-sides to put on there. And other than that, it's just getting together every now and then via like Discord and just there hashing out the ideas. And I think we're gonna get this tape out in the next coming months, little merch drop, and just take some time to just figure out what we want musically, in a sense. We've got a few demos, but we've got a lot of options pretty much. We want to do a lot of things at once. Like I know me and Matty want to start a post-punk band.
Yeah.
I want to start a hardcore band. I want to do more rap stuff. There's just so much like at the minute that we want to do. So we're gonna take a bit of time to try and work it all together. And
I think we're in a good position though, because I was saying to you, weren't Danny, where in a weird way, some of the more prominent bands in a scene, there's obviously a lot of pressure for them to keep creating, keep pushing stuff out in certain like time frames, whereas we're fortunate enough where it's none of our career. It is right now. For me, anyways, right now it's obviously something I don't make money from. I still have to work alongside it, and that enables all of us really to be able to do stuff at our own pace, at our own leisure, and really, focus on what we want to do. And we've got some cool ideas that we've knocked around. It's not too big that is even worth going into right now, because they are still just ideas. But yeah, as I said, there's not really a time limit that we're putting on ourselves. We're just going to wait until it feels right, and hopefully when we next get round to creating something as Decay, it'll sound as cool as the stuff we put out so far. Hopefully cooler.
Hopefully,
hopefully, yeah. But that's up to you guys, I suppose, to tell us.
So, I mean, from what you guys are saying, it seems like, and I could be way off base here. Can we expect, maybe a little more of a break in terms of like new Decay content? Because like, are you guys going to be kind of figuring out little side things you're trying to do at this time? Is Decay going to become kind of like just like another side project of sorts for you guys, like as you kind of pursue more solo and like smaller other side stuff? I mean, is that the wrong way to view it? I mean, can you kind of just elaborate a little more on that? Like,
I wouldn't say it'd be a side project, but I think my lecturer said something that resonated with me. He was like, you don't want to just be like a graphic designer. You want to be a graphic designer that does this, that. Like, he's a photographer, he shoots films, he's a writer, does all this. You want to have it all going, just in case one falls, and you can like kind of balance the plates. I think a lot of the time and the effort and like the energy goes into Decay, because like it's what we all want. It's like something. It's a goal we're all trying to work towards. So I think the side projects are going to stay as side projects, and just the main focus is the band and like trying to achieve like this greater thing, something that like outlives us, in a sense.
Spot on, know what you're saying, because I remember listening to an interview with the South Park guys, Trey Park and Matt Stone, and I know that when South Park kind of kicked off, that was one of like 25 projects they were doing at the time, and I remember one of them saying they couldn't believe it was South Park that popped off. So and that made me laugh a lot, because you look at it now and think, how did you not know that wasn't going to be absolutely incredible? Like it's one of my favorite TV shows. But that kind of emphasizes the point that Danny's making there, just that I don't think you can just put your eggs all in one basket. You kind of just have to, and like we, elaborate on what we were speaking about before, you just have to do stuff that you feel is right. And it's not so much about it being a main project or a side project. I think the only reason Decay is more of a focal point for us is because we're all involved, really. But other than that, it's just picking and choose. As I said, we're quite fortunate to be able to pick and choose what we want to focus our energy in at any given time, without any pressure from labels or having to make money from Decay in order to survive and stuff like that. So in a way, not being as mainstream is kind of fortunate in these kind of times. Although don't get me wrong, I would very much take being mainstream and making money from it. But yeah, you got to look at the positives, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And I think, you look at all the greats, like my favorite band of all time is the Foo Fighters. So, like Dave Grohl, it's like he made a cassette tape, which ended up being the first Foo Fighters record. He made that cassette tape all on his own. He had a producer helping him, but that's the first Foo Fighters record. It's just like, okay, I guess we'll do this thing. And then, you kind of get like stories of all this other stuff that he was involved in. Before Nirvana, he was in a band called Scream, and like he was always just like kind of doing whatever and like being super busy, and like same thing with Eddie Vedder, and like Chris Cornell from Soundgarden and stuff. All these great people, all the greats, they're always busy doing stuff and starving doing it. And like I think that's kind of what breeds greatness, is just staying busy. And that's why people look at me and it's like, why can't you just stick to one project? And it's like, because I don't want to, and I don't know. I mean, it could be this thing, it could be this podcast, it could be the game podcast, it could be my YouTube channel, it could be all these other things, and then eventually it could be all of it, where all of a sudden I've gotten used to doing all these things. And I think for you guys, what you're saying, I think about like Franz from Attila, right? Where everybody makes fun of Franz, but the fact of the matter is Franz is like loaded money, like he's a millionaire, and but
he's a businessman, like
he's a businessman at heart. And when Attila was really starting to ramp up, you kind of saw him do the Franzilla thing of like the rap and a passion project of sorts that he knew he was going to make so much money off of. It could have been horrible and people still would have just eaten it up. And I think there's a certain level of passion that comes with what you guys are talking about. It's like, I want to stay busy doing a lot of different things. And if Decay ends up being that thing that makes us make money, and it's like being the thing that helps us make a living, great. I think eventually you have to kind of you have to adapt with your audience, right? I think that's kind of the trend that everyone's setting, and nowadays we live in a time where kids can't even listen to an entire record. You have to, bands are so sick of people not listening to their entire record on Spotify that they now have to break it up across the year, like 3 or 4 songs at a time,
throwing singles out,
to get on playlists and stuff like that. That way they can actually get their entire record listened to. And then, which seems kind of smart to me, like release 2 or 3 songs at a time throughout the year, and then release a deluxe version of your record at the end of the year, with something else on it or something to get the best chance, and I think, with you guys, it's just super cool to see just that kind of the journey you're taking, and like hearing you say like, oh yeah, I just want to be staying busy with stuff that I really want to do. I think you guys will find all the success in the world. So I'm super happy for you guys. I'm really happy. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to say, just, you've been really complimentary of us, the entire time. I just want to say your content's fantastic too, mate. And, I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely keep it up. I mean, for some, you were saying before, it's not what you're making money from, but you wouldn't know it with your setup. I mean, you got a real professional setup too. When I first seen Have a View, I was like, oh, this kid must do this full time. It's got to be, which is a credit to you, because it shows how much money, time, and effort that you're putting into it, and it doesn't go without notice. So, I just want to say, obviously appreciate you bigging us up and waving the Decay flag in America. But keep the content up yourself though. It's knocking out the park.
I appreciate that, man. That means a lot. It's nice to hear it, even from someone from another continent, like be able to say, hey, like I like your stuff. And at the end of the day, I'm making it for me, but whenever someone else likes it, and it's another little nugget I get whenever someone I admire, someone's work I admire, it says, hey, I love what you're doing. Keep it up. And that's a huge compliment to me. So I really appreciate that. But
not a problem.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But as we sign, Danny, do you have anything you want to say before we sign off here?
No, not really. Listen to the record. Subscribe to
the record.
That's about it.
Yeah, listen to it. I mean, here it is right here. As I kind of showed it, what I'm going to do is I put your guys' live performance in our little break there. So
nice.
Listen to Decay, Staring at the Sun. I bought the deluxe vinyl because I'm a cool kid and I like the pretty orange and black. It's a really good record. You can obviously stream it, but if you love it enough, buy it. Just buy it, like, because it helps the members of Decay out, and it just shows support. It shows support for a band that you love. If I love something enough that I'm like, oh my God, I love this record, and I'm streaming it, if I listen to it enough times, I'm gonna buy it. That's just kind of how my process works. Because unfortunately, we live in a day and age where we are kind of spoiled that we get to listen to something basically for free. I mean, it's not really for free, but basically it is. Everyone has streaming services now. So it's like, if you really dig something, show the, spend the $15-$20 or whatever, like buy the record on vinyl. You'll get the digital, you get the digital edition with it. So, you'll own it there too. So Definitely check it
Not
out.
only that,
Yeah,
if you're still
definitely
here,
check it out.
just subscribe. Like, comment, hit the bell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Also,
Subscribe
No, definitely.
on,
the
on your
podcast
guys'
channel, the
on your
main
guys'
channel.
YouTube
No,
channel.
no, to yours, not to us.
To
No,
yours.
to yours.
No,
Oh, okay.
no,
Yeah,
Yeah.
to
Well,
this
yeah.
now.
Definitely subscribe to Wannabe Music Reviews. And if
Yeah.
you're listening, I put a little bumper at the end of the episode. But thank you guys so much for coming on and being so generous with your time. And it's kind of funny. I was actually a little bit late just because of a time mix up. It's you guys
No,
over there
you're
in the
fine.
UK, and
It's okay.
I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for coming on, and
Thanks
thank
for having
you,
us.
thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. And we will see you next time.
Thanks very much, Gabe. Cheers. Have a good one.
See you in a bit.
Whatever possessed you to check out the podcast or the YouTube channel today, I just want to say thank you so much for doing so. If this is your first time here, I would appreciate it, if you would consider subscribing. As you can tell, it's not just me here anymore. I mean, I do stuff by myself, but the podcast is going to reside here from now on, in video form. So if you want to see more content, if you want to be notified, every time we post something, whether it be a clip, a podcast, a review, an interview, whatever it may be, if it's gaming stuff, make sure you click that bell and hit the subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Thanks for sticking around, and thank you for preparing yourselves for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. I'm Gabriel Fast. I will always be the wannabe critic.